we are here today because we get to meet new members of our community. And that makes me think of my one last announcement is that the next new resident social event that will be taking place is scheduled for October. So if anyone in this room, well, everyone in this room should be aware that on October 12th from 5 to 7, we're going to be getting together at the Elite Folk School for a free, informal social gathering so that our new residents can interact meaningfully with our established residents. And this will be, I think, our 5th time that we're doing that. I don't know, I should keep track, but they're always really fun. Last time we had 50 people there and we had a blast. And some of us stayed until like 9 p.m. So who knows if that will happen again. For now, though, I would like to welcome Mr. Alton Brown to the podium. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Lacey. You know, when I started doing this meet new Elyites, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago, we do it maybe twice a year and have 4 presenters, and they were mostly retired. Now, besides doing it at least 4 times a year with 5, 6, 7 presenters, they're mostly working people. So it's like herding cats. So like for this time, I had this long list, and 6 of those had to work. One's in the boundary waters. 2 last-minute cancellations, one of which, you know, new people need to build their garage. And just this morning, finally, after long waiting, the company called and said, we'll be there at noon today. They started a garage somewhere over there on the other side of the lake here. Anyway, we are a very interesting group today. And I'm going to begin with Jess Kluick. And she'll tell us about her and Tim.
Hello, I'm Jess Kulik. My husband is Tim Kulik. He would love to be here right now, but he is actually at the front desk right now. For the summer, he's been working at the jail at the front desk, and in September, he will be a special ed teacher at Rockbridge High School in Virginia and Evelyn area. I'm working as a digital marketing specialist for the Wolf Center, and we're very excited to be here. I've been coming here since I was a kid, and when I first brought Tim in the middle of winter 5 years ago, we were walking around and he looked at me and said, we should live here. So finally, after 5 years, everything worked out and we're here. We're excited to see all of the different seasons and to explore more than we've had time to on our vacations here. And Tim is very much excited and looking forward to learning how to canoe and also cross-country ski. So if you have a chance, say hi to him at the front desk. But it's nice to meet you all. Yes.
Tell us about your educational background, would you?
Oh, okay. So for 10 years of my life, I was a teacher. I taught gen ed, bilingual, and special ed in grades 2nd through 8. Tim taught special education in middle school in 7th and 8th, and now he'll be teaching in high school. And I worked all over the state of Illinois and Wisconsin with the Student Education Association in Wisconsin during the time that Scott Walker was governor. And so there were lots of changes to the education system going on. And then I moved back home to Illinois and I worked with early career teachers across the state to get them connected to mentors and support and resources in rural areas as well as in suburban and city areas. And then I moved into digital marketing and do similar work with the Wolf Center about connecting people to education and resources. So, and I also do some freelance. I'm working with Yoga North Duluth and I work with an education startup doing their digital marketing as well. So.
Sorry, if you're willing to talk about it, you said you teach bilingual education. What are your credentials there? Where have you traveled and what do you teach?
I taught Spanish for 5 years. I was also the head of the bilingual and ELL department of that district while I was teaching bilingual. And I have traveled to every continent except Asia and Antarctica. So I'm working on those 2. Mostly Spanish speaking countries. I spend a good amount of time in Mexico and Ecuador but I get constant complaints from people who are not from Mexico that I sound very Mexican when I speak Spanish, which is where I studied, so it makes sense. But that's I worked with students from all over Central and South America in my classroom as well. Yes.
Yeah, I can't quite remember if you mentioned this, but what's your connection to Ely? How did you find out about it?
Oh, yeah, so I call them my bonus parents, they're my parents' best friends, and I know Pam's watching online. But she has had a house, and her family has had a house on White Iron Lake. For a long time, and since I was a kid, I was coming up to Grandma Elsie's house. And spending time there, on vacations and going into the Boundary Waters with my parents. And when we said that we wanted to move to Ely, they said you can live in our house and manage our cabin for the summer until you get settled and find a place to live. So we're staying on White Iron Lake right now, and we'll be moving on to Sheridan in September. So.
Couldn't Shoni go take the front desk for a few minutes so Tim could come in?
He's very sad that he's missing this. He really wanted to be able to. Yeah. Go see him. Oh. Yes.
I'm sorry.
Welcome, people.
Yeah. He's been very excited to get to meet people and make new friends. He loves going out to groups. He's hoping to start coming to like volleyball and other events because he likes to be active and have a lot of groups.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Chicagoans coming to Ely, yeah. So Alex and unfortunately Kelly can't be here, will tell us, but Alex Kramer's parents, many of you know Lori and Mark, who introduced themselves in one of these programs, I don't know, for how many years they've been here, 4 or 5, so now their son and wife and daughter-in-law follows them, Alex Kramer.
Thanks all, and Ellen's here. Oh, how about now? Yeah, better, yeah. If it's any consolation, I only wish I was retired. So as Elton pointed out, my folks, Mark and Lori Kramer, have lived here for 8-ish years, so apologies. And thank you. So my sister Megan Olson and her husband Jesse Olson also work here. Megan works at Roots and Jesse works at home, but he's all over town. Many of you have probably met him, especially if you're a fan of ice cream. So again, my name is Alex Kramer, and I'm sorry my wife Kelly Kramer isn't here today. She had a family emergency in Duluth, so she was unable to attend, although she may be watching and preparing her notes for me when she gets home. So with that, I guess I'll start with what we do, and we're both in data and analytics in different capacities. I work for the University of Minnesota for a preclinical research outfit. Our 3 facilities happen to train researchers from all different disciplines on how to use high-end microscopy imaging for preclinical research, so mostly small animals and things like that, some human tissues and so forth. And my role in all that exciting work is really pretty mundane. So I am the principal financial and operations manager, and I also do a lot of the data and data formulating and database building for our facilities. So in that sense, it was well suited for me to work remote. I've been there for about 16 years, and just through happenstance in the changing world, I finally had an opportunity to do that remotely. And so why not do that 4 hours away from campus in the woods? And so that's what brought me here. Kelly's story is somewhat similar. She does a lot of data and analytics for the US Bank. And that's about all the detail I can give you because all the detail I know. No, it's financial data and all kinds of things for the various departments of the bank, which is a massive entity in and of itself. So,
excuse me to have to interrupt.
all right.
It's one of the busiest days of the year making blueberry reservations for next year, but I got Tim for about 3 minutes. Sorry, we'll get you back.
So what am I supposed to do? So what am I supposed?
A little bit about your background and how you got to Ely and.
Oh, fair enough. So if you didn't hear, I'm Tim. My wife and I moved to Ely about a month ago. She's been coming up here for most of her life. Me, the last 5 years or so. And the first time we came up here, I made an offhanded comment that we should move here. And then we just did. It worked out, everything lined up. I'm a teacher. I'll be teaching special ed at Rockbridge High School starting in the fall. And then working here some weekends and definitely during the summer. Anything else you guys want to know or? read, want to get out hiking more, sports, so if you know of any leagues, I can't ice skate to save my life, so floor hockey would be nice. Don't want to be running into boards and people. Taking Daisy for a walk, trying to get out of the lake. Illinois, I think technically Chicago was a hospital. So, or Rush Hospital in Chicago, rather.
What was your favorite class you ever took?
Uh. Probably some of my special ed practicums where I got to go into the school and actually see how teaching works. Jess's father is a principal, and so he has a really great teacher, Dr. Lara, who taught me a lot in just an hour of observing her, so she's great.
Thanks, Jim.
No problem, thank you.
All right, I'm back. And shorter. Okay. So, all right, why Ely? It's an interesting question, and not just the Minnesota interesting either. A few different reasons. I'm not much of a history buff, but over the last 8 or so years coming up to visit my folks and Megan and Jesse, really just took an interest in all the history that brought Ely to be. And there's a lot of pride up here, a lot of hardworking folks, and a lot of diversity up here as well. And that really started with the foundation of Ely and what it's grown into today. And that's kind of embodied and reflected in the community. That community aspect is super exciting to us and wanting to be involved. I have nothing against Blaine, where we moved from, or the Twin Cities, but it's a little different feel, a little bit knowing everybody outside on the street and just feeling more community oriented and working together to make something fantastic, such as Ely happens. You know, in that same sentence, the other part of it is we do like the outdoors and adventuring into all of what the new growth has to offer up here and being a part of that lifestyle as well. It's wonderful to turn off the computer and walk away from a spreadsheet into the outside. I'm 100% sure I still don't fully appreciate how awesome that is, but I'm trying. And so those are kind of the major things that drove us up here, and yes, my parents, but they're on the east side of Ely, and we made the decision to be on the west, so boundaries, as they say. So yeah, those were big pieces, and Megan and Jesse, we did a lot with them before they moved up here, and even when they were up here, so they're just all kind of the pieces that fell into our life to make that work, and finally I got the opportunity with the U to work remote, so we seized it, as they say, and who knows what tomorrow will bring, but for now, we're quite excited to be here, and seeing all you lovely people and being part of the community slowly but surely, as we're both, you know, a little introverted, but you know. Okay, what else? I think it's kind of the big details. Anything else? Anybody have questions? That is a big torch to carry. So we had moved in for all of, I think, 3 or 4 days by that, and it was wonderful performance. I don't know about that, but TBD, we'll see. Oh, I hobbies, I forgot to mention hobbies. So I am an amateur woodworker. I do a lot of furniture for right now our home. And then Kelly also likes to do a lot of macrame and things with thread and pieces like that. So we're trying to combine the two to varying degrees of success. We spend a lot of time with our dogs. We have 2 big Great Danes and a Golden Retriever. So if you see somebody with very large dogs around Wolf Lake, maybe us. So yeah, any other questions?
Yeah, thank you.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Y'all come back and bring Kelly. Yeah, two more people working remotely, and it's just a lot of them. You're getting out and meet our new dentist, Spencer and Tove will.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. My name's Tove. This is my husband Spencer. We're excited to meet you all. We're very fresh, new Elyites. We moved in just a month ago. It was 4th of July, so it was fun to get swept up into Ely and all of the fun chaos and all of that here. So we're loving it so far. Before moving to Ely, we grew up in Mason City, Iowa, which is about 6 hours south of here. We went to the same school and we're actually high school sweethearts. We technically dated in 4th grade, but I don't know if that counts. Our lives have been entwined for a long time. We share a similar story. After living in Mason City, we went to the University of St. Thomas, which is in St. Paul, Minnesota. While we were there, Spencer studied biology and I studied English and environmental studies. So he was in the science world, I was in the art and book world, but it worked.
He's the dentist.
Yes, he's the dentist. Right, you gotta wait a little bit longer. Yes, building it up. Yeah, so he was in the science world and that's where he decided he wanted to pursue dentistry. I'll be speaking for you. And that's where I also decided I wanted to be a professor of literature. So kind of our career stories began when we were at St. Thomas studying there. And in the last 4 years, we've been at the University of Iowa. So Spencer got accepted to the University of Iowa's graduate school, and I got accepted to the PhD program for literature at Iowa. So we both were studying there for the last 4 years. Go Hawks! Yeah, and Spencer graduated this spring, and I am still with University of Iowa technically. I'm still getting my PhD. I'm in the last large leg of the program, so I'm writing my dissertation currently and also doing that remotely up here. And a dissertation sounds like a fancy word, but it's just a book-length project where I'm studying the important role of animals in writing. So that's my focus. And then beyond that book, I'm actually working on a different project at the same time. Last summer, I decided I wanted to write a children's book. So I had this reflective moment where I realized, my love for literature came from reading children's books growing up. And so I'm like, I want to, do that myself. I got picked up by a publisher in Minneapolis, and I've been working with my illustrator ever since. She lives in Lutsen, Minnesota. So the whole thing comes together. The title of the book is Northern Sights, and it's actually going to be available in about a month. It's hot on the press right now, so I'm very excited about that. It's happening. Yeah, so with that, I'll hand it to Spencer. He can share a little bit more about our Ely story and just about him.
So, yeah, Tove's touched on everything prior, I guess, right now. That's kind of how our relationship is. He's more of the talker and I'm more of the listener, so I gave him the space to talk. So, just recently graduated Iowa in second, so fresh dentist, only 2 months, but feeling good. While we were at Iowa, we were looking at a place to live and where to work. So we always loved northern Minnesota. We got married in Lutsen, so this area of the world is a special place in our heart. So we visited Ely Family Dental, I think, in February. So in the middle of winter. So the only time, and we'd only been to Ely prior to then to dog sled. So I've only known Ely in the winter, which I think says something. Yeah, so everyone was amazing at Ely Family Dental. Everyone's so kind. Everyone I've met so far has been great. The community here is great, so it wasn't a hard sell to get us to stay here. Something else. Yeah, and just how much access there is to the wilderness and how the beauty of this area is just a really huge draw for us. And yeah, and usually people ask like why dentistry, so I guess I can go into that. My mom mainly asks that a lot because she thinks it's kind of weird to look at people's mouths. But yeah, I just love the person-to-person interaction that I have every day, just meeting so many new people, so many kind people so far in Ely, and just how quick paced it is. I kind of have a short attention span, so being able to do little things with a bunch of people all day works well for me. And just further on Ely, we really like fishing and hiking and biking, so all the outdoor stuff, so a good place for us here. And walking our dog Louie, a little wiener dog. And yeah.
Fish fork.
Anything that bites. I'm not picky. They are sometimes, but.
Where do you do your dentistry?
At Ely Family Dental, down on Sheridan, with Dr. Chow.
Are you taking new patients?
There is a wait list,
Yeah.
so I am taking new patients, but I'm not in charge of the scheduling, and I will not pretend like I am in charge.
Wow. Even with your coming, there's still a wait list.
Yes, yeah, slowly but surely it's happening.
Any other questions? Thanks so much for taking the time to be here.
Happy to be here.
I just got a call, there's somebody in the chair who's been leaving and he's gotta get back.
So another category of new Elyites, besides people who follow family members here and so on and so forth, the people who used to be here leave for whatever good reasons and then can't stay away and come back. So Susan Pelagi was part of the beginning of the folk school, and we regretted when she left with her husband Greg. And they're, come on up, Susan.
Hello, everybody. Yes, I'm a boomerang. This is the fourth time that I moved to Ely. So there is sort of a magnet in Ely that keeps bringing us back. The first time that I came to Ely, it was 2005, and I was an intern at Outward Bound. And so that really cemented my love for Ely, because Outward Bound is such a tight community, and just being out in the wilderness often was a really formative experience for me. So I really loved that. And then I left and I went into the Peace Corps and came back and I did Outward Bound again in other places, but then came back again in 2011 to work at Outward Bound second time. And that time I met my husband, Greg Heidi, and he was at Outward Bound as well. And so we got together and we left again and we moved to DC. And Greg was an Army reservist in DC for a couple years, and we got married and came back in 2014. So this time when we moved back, we decided to live in town, and Greg worked for the Forest Service. Well, he started out working for Outward Bound, but then he moved over to a job in the Forest Service. He's an archaeologist. And I worked for the Pebble Spa as a massage therapist. And I worked for Wintergreen Clothing. At the time, it was Sue Shirky's business that she was getting back again. So I was in the sewing room, and then I did accessories, and then I did some retail, and then I was the business manager. So I was all over the place there. And we started the folk school together with Jerry and Nan and a lot of other really good people. So that was quite a labor of love for us from 2014 to 2016. And then Greg got a different Forest Service job as an archaeologist in Washington State. So we moved away again. And we had a great couple of years, 3 years in Colville, Washington. And he was offered the position as an archaeologist back at the Superior, but not in Ely, in Duluth. So we moved back to the upper northern Minnesota and moved to Duluth. So we were in Duluth for 3 years. And then I think Greg had a lot to do with reorganizing the department, but he convinced them to reorganize so that we could move to Ely again. So here we are. We are renting at the moment right off the Chizona Trail at Heidi Babbitt's place, and really enjoying being in town, and we're loving being able to just step out the door and go for a run or a bike ride, and we're loving the Wasabi Trail. That's really fun, a new addition to Ely. And so some of our hobbies are to take folk school classes as often as possible and to run and do races. We like to travel and do Ragnar relay races in particular. And we of course love to go into the Boundary Waters and do trips, although we don't go with teenagers anymore. Any questions? Yes,
Where were you when you were with the Peace Corps?
I was in Zambia. I was in Southern Africa. Yeah, and I neglected to say what I do now, all of that backstory, but Greg is with the Forest Service again as an archaeologist, and I am working for Yoga North, which was my employer for the 3 years that we were in Duluth. It was right in the neighborhood that we lived in. And so I learned a lot about Soma yoga, which is a very subtle, gentle style of yoga. And so I'm actually teaching Soma yoga classes at the functional fitness heavy metal sports gym as well now, but I'm working remotely for Yoga North. Yes.
Maybe I missed it. Where did you come from your first trip?
Sure, yeah. I grew up in central Wisconsin. I'm a dairy farm kid. And so I came from the farm. And my husband, he grew up in upstate New York. So actually a really similar Adirondacks feel to here. And then he moved to Florida for 20 years of his life. And he will say that it's horrible there and really hot. So he was happy to be in the farm. So yeah, we from those. Yes.
How was the ladies' bike trip?
It was awesome. We had an organized 12-person Ely bike trip a couple of weeks ago. Keiko Williams organized it, and it was, I happened to get my invitation because I know she had her bike helmet one day that I was chatting with her. So I got the coveted spot to go in, and it was so fun. We went over to Bemidji and did 3 days of bike packing, and I remember that I love riding my bike so much and having all of my things on my bicycle and just being like, I can conquer the world and take on these empty roads and just be, it's so fun. Really great. So bike trip was good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're gonna wrap up.
But I'm not surprised you have an idea. Oh, yeah, there were cancellations, but often these things, because people read the paper or get the email from you. They see that, what, I wonder what that is, and we're kind of new here, and they show up, so I spot them and talk them into it. So here comes Bill Harvey and Becky Faust, who are half the year in California, but the best half of the year is here, somewhere out at Fernburg. Thank you for being willing to be called on short notice.
Yeah, we thought we were just coming for the lunch here. Currently, they're, yeah, the same for your supper. So I'm Bill Harvey, and it's my partner Becky Faust. We do have a place that we bought in October out near the end of the Fernburg. And why Ely? Because it's the end of the road. Although when we got here, we realized it wasn't really the end of the road. So we went out Fernburg all the way to the end, and that's where we bought a place. And that really is the end of the road. But I have been here a few times in my younger years for the Boundary Waters, and always loved it. I grew up in Wisconsin also. And although I've lived in 8 states and 4 countries, so when people ask me where I'm from, it's either a long story or a totally arbitrary answer. But we're delighted to be here. We're gonna try to make it through as much of December as we can, and then probably head west and spend the winter in California. But delighted to be here and meet you all.
Are you retired?
Yes, I am retired. I am a retired and recovering attorney. 4 countries, Norway, Germany, England, US. Oh, yes, been prompted to talk about our hobbies. We're both writers. One of us is really, really good at it and actually has published a bunch of things. And then I am what's called an emerging writer. It means I'm still looking for a publisher. But it takes up the time when, you know, I'm not using the chainsaw or something like that.
Yeah.
Very observant, that's right.
Very well, Becky. Who
Yeah,
got down?
so, I'm shorter than him. Yeah, I'm from Western Pennsylvania, and if you ask me why Elaine, I'm with him, basically, but Western Pennsylvania, the landscape, the beauty, the challenges, environmental challenges, very similar to here. It's like Western Pennsylvania, but more wild and with better politics. So I love it here. I'm really thrilled when I see the flora and fauna of my youth and I'm learning about new things too. And yeah, we're both writers. I'm also a recovering attorney, although my law career, that's what took me to California, was short and bitter. But I'm a poet and an editor and a teacher. And I'm really excited about some of the opportunities I've seen with the folk school and elsewise to do more of that, maybe in Ely, the Talk to Center for the Arts, all of that. So anyway, it's wonderful to be here. And my hobbies are writing and reading, learning how to canoe, gardening and knitting. I love to knit, and I just saw that there's a knitter circle here that I'm gonna be looking into. Also, we love cribbage.
You public?
Well, my most recent book came out in September. All the books I published are poetry books. There are a few of them. The second of my books was called Mom's Canoe. My mom was a big canoeist. I didn't do much of it as a kid, so I'm learning now. But yeah, I have several books. I really have enough to insulate my next house, I think. Yeah. You know, the best writing for me, I tell my students this, is on the fly. Keep note cards in your back pocket when you're walking, because there's something kinetic about writing. And then just save those cards, and then when you get a rainy day, I don't really like to write in an office. I like to write at the kitchen table or on the porch or on the couch or whatever. Anywhere quiet and where you're not going to get interrupted is a great place to write.
Where do you live in California?
Oh, so my place is in Marin County, and the main thing that takes me back there is I have a son on the autistic spectrum who's doing really, really great, but he lives there and works there. So California is burning, and it's one of the things that really drove me here. It feels like a refuge from the burning world. But that's one of the main reasons I go back there, is to spend time with him. So it's Northern California. 96 degrees there right now. It's just getting hotter and hotter. Any other questions? We're really happy to be here. We're looking forward to getting to know all of you.
Thank you.
I mean, this could be a total failure of an experiment, but I was just gonna see if anyone else wanted to get on the mic and talk about what they like about living in Ely. I know that not everyone is a new Elyiite, but hey, Molly, what's up? Yes, oh my gosh. Wait, did you say, can you come introduce yourself? Oh my gosh, Molly, please come on up. We get to meet Molly Roski. You've all had the chance to meet Timothy Loney. He's spoken here 3 times, and Molly hasn't yet had a chance to have a microphone. So we're gonna meet Molly, and then we're gonna bring her back so she can have a full hour to talk about whatever she wants to talk about, because she's an expert. I don't know on what though, so let's find out. Let's meet Molly.
I'm sorry, Elton, I didn't know I needed to sign up for these things in advance, so I just showed up. Yes.
I was having so much fun, I didn't even scan the cloud again, sorry.
I guess I've always wanted to come do this since I officially moved to Ely almost a year ago. But when you teach at the college and you have courses during the noon hour, it gets tricky. So yeah, my name's Molly Roski. I am an instructor at what used to be called Vermillion Community College. Most of you would know it as VCC. We now call it Minnesota North College Vermillion Campus because we merged. I am a natural resources instructor there, which means that I teach in the natural resources technology program, but I am all over the board in terms of what courses I actually teach. Bill Ted is nodding because he's heard me explain this before. I have a background, I have a master's in forest ecology with a sort of subspecialization in forest hydrology. So I teach some of the watershed science and hydrology and sort of river related courses at the college. What else to tell you? So how did I come to Ely? I grew up in central Minnesota. If anyone knows the Avon Hills area, St. John's University, that part of the world is where I'm from. I moved away. I've also lived in a number of different countries, most of them in Latin America, as one of our earlier speakers was talking about. I moved back to Minnesota in 2019 to start as the statewide supervisor of the Minnesota DNR's Scientific and Natural Areas program. So if any of you have ever visited an SNA, that's the program I used to supervise for a while. 6 months into that job, the pandemic hit. And what was a promising job with, getting to manage the crowning jewels of Minnesota's natural lands became an office job. And that was a little less fulfilling for me, but I could do it remotely. So I was up in Ely on and off somewhat during that time frame. And then I learned of an opening at the college, and I have been there ever since. What's that?
Hobbies.
It's hobbies. Well, and the other reason why Ely is that during the pandemic, I met my partner, now fiance, 1 month from tomorrow, husband. So I'm pretty excited about that. Timothy Loney teaches sociology and criminal justice at the college as well. And so he was the one who took me off to the opening. So we have him to thank. But I just started spending more and more time here. I was working remotely and I was doing most of it from a spare room at Timothy's house, which is now our house. And so that is why Ely. My hobbies include lots of things that I've always sort of been enamored with the concept of Ely. Though I didn't spend as much time here, I grew up doing canoe trips on the Gunflint Trail side of things, but had friends who maybe worked for one of the Shirky enterprises or one of the Steger enterprises, and I always thought that Ely was this really cool place. And I enjoy paddling quite a bit. I had the opportunity as my first summer off in 2 decades or more. I actually had the opportunity to do some guiding this summer in the Boundary Waters, which felt really good. It's like getting back to my roots. I am a trail runner. I love rock climbing, yoga, a number of the sort of anything outdoors. I got Timothy into bike packing with me, so we've done some of those trips with Megan and Jesse and others recently. Yeah.
How'd you and Tim meet?
Well, we met the way people meet these days, which is on an app, but then it turns out that all the people that you meet online via an app that don't work out, there's the 1 in a million story that does. So yeah, that's how we met. Yeah. Well, if you want the nuts and bolts of how we met, it was vaccine era, right? And so I was living in Duluth at the time. I couldn't find an open vaccine appointment anywhere in the Duluth radius. The closest was Mountain Iron. And so I had that appointment on a Thursday night, and I, coordinated with this person that I'd been talking to for quite a while but hadn't yet met. I thought, how about you come to Mountain Iron? We'll go on a hike. We went on the Little Laurentian Divide hike right there north of town. That was the first trip.
I thought it was charming how you decided where to get married and why.
Charming. How did Timothy portray this to you, that it was charming? We looked at it's a charming place, I will say that. We looked all around the Ely area because we love it here. We think this will be home for a good long while for us, and most of our friends and family have not experienced Ely. There are a few who do and are really looking forward to the opportunity to come up here, but we wanted to have an Ely wedding. And we looked all around at a number of different venues and we settled on the YMCA Camp Northern Lights. Recently taken over, I gather, by the YMCA. It used to be a family-run resort, and just we could do everything on site. There's a really cute pavilion right down by the water, and all of our family friends can stay in cabins or camp or whatever they want, and the outdoor food truck kind of thing, so should be fun.
Wow. Thank you so much. That's so- OSKO? That's an E.
That's it.
OSKE. Mr. Ely Echo reporter. You know, I mentioned, people like Susan who used to be here and just couldn't stay away and came back. Could we introduce Jerry and Nan Snyder? Yeah, I can get the mic really down. Yeah, we got 7 or 8 minutes.
I'll let Jerry tell you why we're coming. Because I'm not sure how he feels about it.
I've only made one mistake in my life, and that was moving away from Ely.
I think when I talk about it, it almost makes me cry. We moved thinking we were doing the right thing because we're elderly and we wanted to be, didn't want our children. Ely's a very hard place to get to if something happens to you. And we didn't want our children to feel they had to make the trip, 2 flights and a car and a boat, because we live on an island. So we thought, well, we just can't do this anymore. So we made a mistake and we moved to a nursing retirement community. Very nice place, but we have to rethink how we do these places. Everybody there is old. Old people are fine, but they don't. You ask them, would you like to do this or do that? Oh, that's okay, my kids will take care of that. They aren't interested anymore in being involved, or many. I don't want to say everybody because I don't know. But I think a lot of the people, what we like about Ely is that we have all ages and everybody's involved, and we get to be, just because we're old, people still include us in things, and we like that. And I think that helps keep you young. So that's one of the reasons, and I was never very happy there. And so now when I think about coming back, I just melt. So we're back, and we have to go back and go through the moving and all that again, but we'll be back. Hopefully if nothing happens in the meantime, we'll be back. Thank you.
How did you come to Ely in the first place?
Well, we came up here a long time ago with friends who brought us up. They lived in Minneapolis. They brought us up to Ely, to the lake, Burnside Lake. And we came over.
We met him in Washington.
We met these people when we were living in Washington. And they took us over they brought us up to stay on their island, and they got us at 5 o'clock in the morning. We're like, what can be that good? So we drove up here and we drove out they have a boat, and they took us out to their island, and we were like, just gobsmacked. We just couldn't believe that this kind of a place existed. So we flew up. Sounds to me, it is not really like we're Mr. and Mrs. Gotrocks, we're not. But we flew up the next weekend and bought an island. I mean, how smart is that? We didn't do anything with it for about 7 years because we were both working. And then once we knew we were going to die, then we built a house there. And then we moved to Connecticut we've moved a lot, but we moved to Virginia to be near Jerry's brother. And then we weren't close enough to Ely, so we moved to Minneapolis, and that wasn't close enough, so we moved to Ely. And that's where we lived, and we, sounds a terrible thing to say, but if I die here, that'd be wonderful. I love it.
I thought I'd get away without saying it.
Tell us one kind of, amazing or splendid thing that, attracted you when you first met.
Yeah, well, man is from Texas. And my family moved from Ponca City, Oklahoma, down to Houston, Texas. And I was away at school and came back for the summers. And we lived in Houston, the move. It's hard to describe Houston. I mean, a lot of oil money down there and stuff like that. And somehow I got put on a list of eligible bachelors, and they had these parties and they invited me, and they wouldn't know who in the hell I was, but I was on this list. Anyway, at one of these parties, Nan was there, and it was at a fancy country club. And they had music going there, and she got up on a tabletop. He started this flamenco type stuff. Anyway, that's how we met. And of course, I hated Texas, and so we moved to the East Coast, and we spent time in New York City and Washington, DC, and other places. But as Nan said, the friends that we met in Washington, DC were from Minneapolis and had the island up there, and that's how they were very close friends of ours. Anyway, that's how we ended up here, and we come, and right now we have an offer on a house. And so assuming it goes through, we'll be up here permanently again. So. I'm sure.